Hello students, welcome back. So in this session, we are going to be studying containers for data. So the main one that we'll be studying would be list, tuple, and set. So let's start with the list first. A list is an ordered, mutable collection of elements. When I say ordered, it means that the elements in the collection, they maintain the order in which they were inserted. In other words, they were added. List, they can also contain duplicates. Lists are heterogeneous. In other words, they can contain elements of different data type. For example, it can contain integer, string, boolean, and so on and so forth. List, it supports indexing and slicing. For example, you can access an element by zero like this, by indexing. You can access a list of a range of numbers by 1 colon 3. So this is called slicing. Some of the use cases of list is when you need to preserve order of elements, when your collection will change very frequently. If you know you'll be doing a lot of insert operation, update operation, delete operation in your data, you want to use list. Lists generally they tend to be very good for general purpose storage and for data manipulation. Now let's focus on tuple. A tuple is an ordered immutable collection of elements. In list it was ordered and mutable, here it is immutable. Tuple, they can contain duplicates, and also they are heterogeneous. Same thing, in other words, they can contain elements of different data type like integer, string, boolean. Tuple, they also support indexing, they also support slicing. Tuples, they are slightly faster than list, and they are good, they're ideal when your data remains fixed. In other words, when you do not have to perform many insert or update operations. That's when you want to prefer tuple over list. Use cases of tuple, when you want to create a constant data structure. Often tuples are used for read-only or hashable data. For example, keys in dictionary. Tuples, they tend to be ideal when your data are not or is not changing very frequently. And also you want to make sure that if your data does not change accidentally, then you want to use tuple. And then you have sets. A set is an unordered, mutable collection of elements. A set, it can contain no duplicates. Your list and tuple, it can contain duplicates. A set, it can contain elements of different data type, as long as the elements are string, integer, float, or boolean. A set, it cannot contain list or dictionary. A set does not support indexing or slicing. On the other hand, list and tuple, they do support indexing and slicing. Use cases of a set is when you need to eliminate duplicates. Very handy. When you're doing set operations like union, intersection, differences, you use set over there. When you need to check for membership, for example, if you want to check if some element X is inside some set, so they tend to be very fast lookup. So this is a short summary of what we have covered. Ordered, list is yes, tuple is yes, set is no. Mutable, list is yes, tuple is no, and set is yes. Allows duplicate, list is yes, tuple is yes, and set is no. Indexable, list is yes, tuple is yes, and set is no. And use cases, general purpose, fixed data, and for unique elements. In this case, your data can be changed. These are hashable use cases, and they tend to be for fast lookups. Okay, so how do you create list, tuple, and set? Well, the way you create a list is by using the square bracket. For tuples, you use round bracket, and for sets, you use curly braces. So suppose I want to create a list of elements, a list of elements that contains names of people. So in this case, these are the names: Tom, Ashwani, Patel, Shamlodia, Ashwani, Tom, Ashwani. In this case, I print my names and I also print the type. So let's run this, and you can see that it prints out this in exactly the same way it was written over here. So I created a list like this, and this list has been printed in exactly the same way it was created. In other words, your output, it preserves the order. Your Tom Ashwani Patel was like this, and Tom Ashwani Patel. So the order in which it was created is the same order in which it is printed. It can also contain duplicates. You can see that there is a Ashwani over here, Tom over here, and Tom over here. And you can see that Tom and Tom and Ashwani, Ashwani. And I'm also printing the type. In this case, it's a class list. So with this square bracket, that signifies list. Let's look at tuple. Tuple, it preserves the order, and it can also contain duplicates just like list can. The only difference between this and this, now I'm using a round bracket over here. That's it. Elements are same. Everything is same. So in this case, I'm printing names and I'm printing type. And this prints out your tuple right here. As you can see, the order is same. So the order in which I created this tuple is printed in exactly the same order right here. I'm also printing the type, and you can see it's a class tuple. Okay, now let's look at sets. So in this case, my set contains exactly the same elements that was these elements right here. But your duplicates would be removed in this instance. So when I run this, you can see that after I create these set of names like Tom is being repeated inside, Tom is repeated, Ashwani is repeated, Ashwani is repeated. But when I print my names, you can see that Tom is being only printed once and Ashwani is only printed once. And that's because that's one of the characteristic of set is that it is going to remove duplicates. Very handy for that, if you want to remove duplicates. If you want to see what type that is, in this case, this is you run this command and that's going to give you it's a class set. So sets are created using curly braces right here. Okay, now the set, it does not preserve the order. So for example, let's say I create a set of Tom, Ashwani, Patel, Shamlodia, Jambosh, and I print my name. Now when I run this, you can see that the output is not in exactly written the same way in which it was printed over here. If you can see that it was Tom first, Ashwani next, and then Patel, and look at that, it's Ashwani first, Jambosh, Shamlodia, Patel, Tom. So it does not preserve the order.